Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this McAdemy at Home webinar. Welcome all. This session will be in English today, as we have a few international visitors as well. So welcome. I hope you're all are well in this time, and let's have some learning about SAP Analytics Cloud. Okay. Just a few practicalities. The session for everybody is muted. Questions can be asked via the question button, box. My colleague Harmjan will then ask them. And materials will be shared afterwards. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask them in the box, and I will reply to that. Materials will be shared afterwards from the presentation. To introduce myself, my name is Sander Huisman. I'm working for Macquarie for about 2 years now. With that, I'm always also working with BI and especially SAP BI for about 10 years. My focus is front-end reporting, so Webby, analysis for Office, but also Tableau, Power BI, and of course now SAC since about 2 years. So today I will explain a few things about SAP Analytics Cloud. So for today's agenda, I will give an introduction about SAC. I will give a live demo on our demo system, and I will tell about the roadmap of SAC for the coming months, year from SAP, and all the interesting changes and updates that are coming in the coming period. So, okay. For the introduction, so SAP Analytics Cloud is a solution from SAP, which is a fast implementation, and it will also seamlessly integrate within your SAP landscape. It's an analytical tool built for technical and non-technical users, so it's really also a tool that can be very good use by end users. It's very user-friendly, it's very intuitive to use. You can blend and enrich your data from major sources. So also external sources, you can upload files to SAP Analytics Cloud to integrate in your reporting, as well as having live connections to your BW system, your HANA system, or other non-SAP systems, if you may. And of course, there's also it's a future-proof reporting system, which also upgrades every 2 weeks or every quarter. That's depending on your contract and what you would like to have as a company. So SAP will automatically update your system. So if we look at the overview of SAP Analytics Cloud, basically it has a few different pillars. The reporting part, so the BI part with the data discovery, charts and geospatials, planning part where you can do your planning. So if your mates is a tool to use as your BPC, your business planning, only done in the cloud with SAP Analytics Cloud. As well as predictive. There's a predictive module in SAC where you can do your smart predictions, sort of predictive analytics within your tool. Application design, so this will be a new feature as well in SAC where you can make your own applications which you can use within your dashboards, and a part embedding your applications also within your S4 landscape and so on. If we look for this training, we will focus on the BI part. So what are the charts? How can we make a chart? How can we make a table? And so on. SAC will allow you to connect to on-premise solutions. So your on-premise BW, on-premise HANA, or other sources, as well as direct connection with cloud applications. In our case, we will connect to our HANA system in the cloud with a direct connection. Move on. So key features of SAP. It's pre-configured system by SAP. SAP will also maintain the system. As it's also cloud and it's web-based. You do not have to install anything on your system or on your PCs. So for an IT perspective, this is very maintenance friendly. The integration, as I said, is quite seamlessly within your SAP landscape. You can set up your security to leverage your security set up in your HANA system, also as the authorization concepts. Well, as I said, there are 4 pillars or 5 pillars, but you have one tool that can do your reporting, your planning, your prediction, and your application design. So no more spread out different applications or systems and servers in your landscape. So you can really have one tool to do it all. Next to that, you have no data replication if you use the live connection with S4. This means that your data will stay in your source system and only metadata is transferred to the cloud. This with data privacy items like that. So where you're in the Netherlands, you have the AVG with data security, data privacy. There are a lot of companies that do not want their data to go out of their data centers. For that, with the live connections, you are not transferring any data. And then, of course, it's web-based, so you do not have to install anything. Then look at the visuals and the design of SAC. There are ways to make your design faster by setting up templates that your end users or users could use to develop their reports. And of course, you have as well interactive linking. So if you have different graphs, you can say, okay, I want to, if I click on the graph, what does it change in the rest of my data to filter interactively your data between the graphs and also multiple tabs in your storyline. Then we have time series forecasting. So there's a possibility to do forecasting. There's the predictive engine, but also within the design of the dashboard, you could create different time series forecasting that would calculate a part of data, and then based on your points in time, you can make your forecasting. For this function at the moment, you do need to have acquired data instead of live connections, but SAP, and I will get to that in the roadmap, is working on making those features also available on live data. Hierarchy displays, of course, something what in SAP tools is very important. It's also working very good in this tool. Of course, you can also create your variances and your calculations, and well, all the parts that you can see in the report, you can create. You can create and show a visualize the information with the tool. Creating a report in SAC goes, report, sorry, in SAC it's called a story. And there you have actually a tab, a designer panel, where you can create and change your visuals. This is split in 2 parts. It's a builder part and it's a styling part. Building, as it says, it's really to build your graph, create your calculations, add your filters and so on. And the styling part is really made to change the colors, change the number formatting, the font sizes and so on. But also create your reports as it should for your company. This is all working with drop-down menus, right clicks of the mouse. If you are used to working with SAP toolings, for example, Web Intelligence, there's everything on different parts in the report, but always with the right click you can find all kinds of menu to change your report. Then has a smart insights function. This is a function that is sort of giving you insights, a part of machine learning, if you may, that will tell you, as a SAC will look at your data and give you insights on what are your contributions and what kind of data is SAP seeing for you, and what are the key points that are making this data as it is. It's a sort of machine learning light. It's part of machine learning that end users could do without the need of a data scientist. Downside on this is at the moment, this is not possible with a live connection, but this will be in the future. Then there's 2 ways to connect to SAP Analytics Cloud. It's a live connection with course. It's a course connection. In this way, you can connect your SAP Analytics Cloud towards your HANA system, and there you make a connection. And then you can get a live connection. The other way to get data in your SAC system is by import. And then you can use the cloud connector to upload data into your SAC system. Yeah, so there you have the different options to get your data towards SAC. Then you have the security and authorization model. If you are used to business objects, how authorization and security is maintained there is quite similar. Only here you have a user which is part of a team, and the team has a role, and that role and the team will be assigned to a folder, so you can share and create reports with each other and share them. And so you can also say, okay, these folders are for team A, team B, team C. And then you have with the roles, you give them rights, if they can read, write, execute, delete, if you may, in the system. And of course, from your HANA system or your BW system, either with the course connection or with the careables connection for BW, you can also leverage the authorization and authentication from there. So you have your security objects from the source system that you can leverage again in SAC. So far, questions on this part?
Yeah, Sander, I can see that there's a question coming in.
Yep.
The question is whether dashboards in SAP Analytics Cloud automatically render over different devices. So, for example, desktop or mobile.
Yeah, you can set it up. Automatically, it already renders, which is really nice. So you don't have to set it up separately. You can also test it in the GUI to see how it would look on the other device.
Okay, perfect. That was the only question for this part.
Okay.
So
then I'm gonna switch to SAC for the demo. All right, so I'm gonna change the screen. 1 second. This way. Okay. This I'm gonna hide. 1 moment. Gonna switch my screen. Give me 1 second. Yes. So, Armian, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
we can see, yeah.
Okay, good. So this is the SAC starting screen. Here this is your home panel. Of course, you can see your recent stories that you have opened. Even if you have applications, you can see them here, or digital boardrooms, which is another part. If we're gonna create a story in SAC is created in this way. You can use a template. So if I would choose my template, this already has my logo. It has a sort of a setup of different standard KPI blocks that we use as a standard for a report structure. So if I would open this, I will get my my layout and the way of how SAC shows. So this is the visual or the design panel. I could add more different tabs if I want, or different layouts. SAP also has a lot of standard layouts that you can add. Of course, you can, as a company, you can add here your different templates. So then I have my report. I would like to connect to the data. So here I can say I want to have, you have three different options: directly from a data source, a data upload from a file, or from a model. So in this way, I've created a model based on a live connection from our S4 system by an ABAP CDS view. So I will connect to it. Then I'll check, I connect to my live model. So here you get your variables or your prompts from the system. Just gonna change this to Euro. And I'm gonna refresh the data. So here you get your data preview screen. It's basically you have your story side of your report and you have your data side of your report. So here you could see, okay, I have my net sales cost, and I can do a data preview. So here you could say, okay, I have my data or date. I have my billing date, and then you can see, okay, let's get you a data preview in your system. So you could see, well, you can do sort of data preview and check what kind of data do I have. And you can say, I have different dimensions. This all is coming from our view, and give me a preview. And then you can also say, copy this to my view, create a chart. Now I'm going to my story, because I've connected my story to my report, or my story to the data source. I can say, okay, here I have my view. I want to create a chart. And here the builder parts opens to the right side and says, okay, what do you want to create? Now, standard in this way is a bar column chart. And I want to add a measure. So here I have different measures that are coming from my view. So here I say, okay, I want my net sales volume. Then it's loading my data. Actually, I want to split it by my billing date. So here you can search in the list to reduce the number of items, so you don't have to scroll down. So here you see it now creates for me my graph with these fields. But I move on and I want to make a second graph, but I want to say, okay, I want my net sales volume. Let's see here, I have my net sales volume, but this time I don't want to see it in the time, but I would like to see it by product. So here I have my products, but here for my products, I'm actually more interested to see my top products than all my products. Here on the dots, you have the graph. How you say? This is the legend. Here you can see or give different options to your graph. You can say, okay, I want my rank on my top products, or I want more than my top 5, but I want top 10 or top 25, if you may. But in this case, we go for top 5. So here you can easily create your top 5 products for my net sales volume. There's a few clicks and you create a second graph. So here, if you have a good understanding of your model, you can really easily create your different graphs in your report. And if I make another graph, just to finish my square, I can again say I want my net sales volume. But this time I want it by ship to party. Yeah. This is time. Time I don't want. I actually, this is standard, is a time series, but in this case I want to use a dimension, so I have to change it to a bar column to say, okay, ship to party, and I get my my data. Here I actually want to sort it because this is on the alphabet. I want to say, okay, I want my sorting. Here again, you click on the three dots. I go to sort. Then you can say, okay, I want to sort it by name of the ship to party. And in this case, I want to sort it highest to lowest based on net sales volume. So then it will sort my data. So this way, you can again, in a few clicks, create another graph and visualize it and change the visualizations in a way that you want to see by, in this case, sorting based on the measure. Then if I go to my last one, I really want to, in this case, I want to add more than one measure and to make an analysis on that. So in this case, I want to take the sales volume, the sales cost, and then I want to see what is the margin together. So volume minus cost is actually a margin in this case. And then I want to visualize it in a different way. So if I then say, okay, I want to change it not in a horizontal way, but in a vertical way. So I get three different columns. And then I want to say, I want to make a dimension to split it. In this case, I will take the product again. So I can see for my products, what is the volume, the net sales volume, the different costs that are there to make the product. And then of course, what is my margin? In this way, it is a bit wide. You don't really see what is the difference for one product. So then we can say, okay, I want my bars, I want to stack them to make it more in a way of layers so you can see the difference. It's really powerful as well for your finance reporting. If you would do a budget forecast actuals reporting, you can put the different columns in front of each other to see I have my actuals, I have my budget and my forecast, and how are they intertwined with each other. So here we can say this one I want to be at the front, my volume. Actually, I want my net profit margin at the front. So you can here layer your different columns. And of course, to really differentiate them, you can also change the pattern. So my profit margin is solid because I have that one at the front. And you can say here to change it. You see it in the different graphs coming as well because it's the same measure. So here you can then change it like this. But now I don't want the other graphs to change in this way. I also want to have a more dynamic way of working with my other graphs because now all is net sales. Now I can make the different tabs for my different ways of working. So my cost breakdown, my margin breakdown. I can also include this in one report. The way how we can do that, I'm just going to change back this color, is that we say, okay, I have my graph here, or my report. And here I'm going to change this measure. I'll say, okay, I want to make a measure-based input control. This way, I can give the end user the opportunity to select dynamically the different measures that I'm showing in the report. In this case, net sales, net profit margin, those three. Now there are four lines actually. Then I just was a bit too quick. I need to click on the right one, create a measure input control. There I can say net profit margin, net sales cost, and net sales volume. So in this case, I made a new input control, which he placed here. I'm going to drag it because here everything in the report you can select and then drag to the different places in my story. So now I get here a sort of selection box, which I can make bigger or smaller as you may. And here you see a selection for the different key figures. So if I go back to my graph, you do see that the top 5 is gone now because I removed the key figure. I'm just going to give this a new name because new measure input control is a bit old or a bit long. So I can say net value selection. I'm gonna call it key figure selection. And you will also see if I select the graph that the name of the measure has been changed to net value key figure selection. If I scroll here, I can say rank top 5, and it will do the rank based on the key figure that has been selected. So if I'm gonna scroll a bit to this side, gonna remove the designer. If I now select a different key figure, it will make my top 5 based on the net sales cost or on the net sales volume, if you may. So it dynamically changes the way your graph works. And of course, I can use this key figure now also in my other graphs. So if I would say in my time series, I can say, give me my net sales key figure. So it also is added in the drop-down list of measures that you can select. And then I can do this for this key figure as well. Or this graph, sorry. And then we have our list. So here I can now dynamically go through my report and select. Of course, in this graph, I want to see all 3, so I'm not going to change the key figure there to that one, because here I will just see the 3 separate or together in this graph. Also here, then you can select. So in this way, you can make basically in one dashboard or one story, you can make basically 3 different reports, because you can make it dynamically and selectable by the end users. Here we have also our widgets. The way how we create our reports is to have your key figures on the left side, your KPIs, then have the breakdown in the middle with 4, 5, or 6 graphs, if you may. So here we can say, okay, here I want my measure. In this case, I want my net sales volume. And it will add it here with all the different parts. I'm going to do this here for cost. And I'm going to do it for the margins. There we go. So now we can say, okay, here you can, it's intuitive. It will change the size of the numbers inside. If you make the box bigger or smaller, you can change the layout. But well, basically, I have a lot of information here I'm not that fond of. I don't need to know, again, net sales volume. So then if you go to the 3 dots, you can go to show height, sorry. And here you can say, okay, I don't want the secondary label value. Secondary value maybe primary value. I don't need that information as well. So here you can hide and your the different labels in your fields, so you can keep it nice and clean. You can do the same here. Yeah. And I can do the same as well in this way, in this widget. Oh, primary variables, of course, I need to keep. So now we have a blue background, and here we don't. So what we're going to do now is going to change the styling. Of course, you can here go to styling in the builder panel, or you can go to styling here, and then it opens it here in the panel. You can see the different styling options you have for this widget. Of course, if I click on another widget or a graph, you get different options depending where you click. In this case, it's a selection box. I want to change the background color to the color that is also in the other ones. So in this case, I want to know the color of this one. So here I can say, okay, give me the hexa code. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to change it here. There we go. Now I have the same background color as well as my other widgets here. So if we look at this, here we have the euro. It gets it concatenated from the source. Then you can here see in the styling menu, you can see different options. So the background color we just saw, we can put borders if you may. Border properties, that's for another training. And then we have the font size. Here you can change the size and the colors, of course, and you have the number format. So here you can say, okay, I do not want the euros because I already have it here. So you can remove the currency or unit there. Of course, if you get from your source your euro sign or other signs, you might want to show it. But in this case, from the CDS view, I'm getting the word euro and I do not want to show that. Also, you can change the scaling in this in the box depending on the numbers you see. In this case, it's 160,000 euros, but maybe this is a short data set. You can have a number that fluctuates. So in that case, you might want to have auto formatting, and then it will change it in well, 1,000 euros, millions, billions, and so on. In this case, I do not want to have the word 1,000 behind it. Then you can say the scale format. You can change it to K euros or M euros or BN euros to have it there. So 160K. And I can also, of course, change it for this graph. How to format it. Do this, and I want to remove again the euro sign. This will also scale when you have a smaller device and so on. I change it here as well. And here we have the currency unit. Okay. Decimal places you can of course change as well, and you can do the signing if you would like. This is a way that you can change your layout of the report. In this case, you can also say, I want to make my report. Well, I want to change it in a way that everything fits together. And you see here the grid lines that you can use to really make sure everything is on the same position. So just by drag and drop, making your graphs bigger or smaller, it will fit. And this way, you can make a nice and clean story with your graphs. Oh, I went down one block. And this way I have my report. Now, as I mentioned in the presentation, you also have the linked analysis. You can link between different graphs to change the numbers. So in that way, you can say, okay, I have my linked analysis. Again, you click on the three buttons of a graph and you say compare linked analysis. Then you can say, I want to only filter this widget, and then it will only filter this graph. Filter all the graphs in the whole story. So if you have multiple tabs, for example, if you have a whole storyline where you make your report in a way, a sort of overview from a higher level, you go down to the details in the different tabs. You can say, okay, I filter my main tab, and then it will filter also all the other tabs. Or you can say, I only want to filter this page. So then you can have your report or your story, your tab filters. Or I can only have selected filters in a way that you can say, I always want to have my timeline graph. I want to have it on the same way, always. It's just fixed. So I do not want to filter that one. You can say, okay, I want to filter everything but this one. And then you can filter. Then that widget will not filter. And in this case, I want to filter all the widgets on the page. And I want to filter the data selection. So if I do this, and I click here, it will automatically filter my other widgets in my report. Well, this product, well, didn't cost a thing, so the margin was really good. I see that I forgot to do the euro. Click. So So here you can really see, if you want to make it interactive, you can filter out, you can filter out your report and make it dynamic for your end users. Also, if you select multiple lines, it will filter the report. So in that way, you can say, okay, I want to see the figures in my story for more than one product or 3 products to filter out your story. It's very dynamic, and you can see for the end user, it's really easy to analyze different stories or products or figures in your report without the need of having different reports, the need of adding filters or using input controls. You can just click in your report and it will filter out the rest. You can also see that if you select 2 items, 2 lines in my report, that SAC automatically shows what is the difference between the 2. So yeah, that will help also in your analysis to see. It will also always do between 2 items. So if you have 2, it will add automatically this difference between these 2. Of course, I've now put the linked analysis for one graph. You can of course choose that you do not use the linked analysis on every graph, but you can always of course set them up. So if I set these up, this one. Okay, this one is for the whole story. So if I say cascading this effect, basically you have to click on the filter part to show. I will show that on the other widget. I'm gonna do this one. So here now as well, I can just select a month or date actually, and it will filter the rest of my data. Or I can say I want to select a couple of sales days, billing days, and then it will filter it for that data. So that you can do by just dragging your mouse and selecting a part of the data to make a bigger selection. And to deselect, you click in the graph and it will come back to the original part. Excuse me. Then we have the last graph that I want to change for the linked analysis to show also the widgets in the whole story. So if I now want to filter, I actually get a box here, and then I can filter the data point. And then you also see that you get an item here. It's a filter, story filter. If I now have more than one story, I will see here the filter as well. So I do not have to click on the graph to deselect it, but I can just remove it here by clicking on the cross. So you don't have to go back to your previous tab or whatever tab where you place the filter. You can just remove it there in the top part of your screen. That so you do not lose track, or you have to switch tabs and you have to search for it. This makes it much faster. And this way, actually, we made a quick dashboard, or if you made a story to see. So if you then go to view mode, you can basically see the different the story that you made in your report. So just going to go back. Here I need to remove my filter and have my my data ready. So if I go here, I have my device preview. As said, as the question was raised, here you can see the view. You can also see, I want to see it on an Android, and you see that if you would open this on your phone, on your Android phone or on your iPhone, if you may, you can see it will put automatically the graphs under each other to be able to still read it in a way that you can work with it. Device preview, here you can also change a few things with settings like zoom or zoom in to make it smaller or bigger in a way. Here you can say a large tablet, how does it look, or a larger tablet, and how does it work. So you can also say iOS, you can basically have a pre-display on how everything looks. Okay, going back to the report. So this is the way that you can do a view. Yeah, of course, then you can save the report. Also, if you have made a layout, you can save it as a template so other users can use it. So if you have your logos already placed, your formatting made, your color setups, then you can make you do that one time and then you save it as a template. As easy as it is. Just save it, and it will remove the data from the report and the connection, and it will save it. And you can also, if you have multiple tabs created, you can say here which tabs you want to save as a template. So if you have a standard storyline that you always want to use, 3 or 4 or 5 tabs, you can save that template with those 3 or 4 or 5 tabs to have that working. Okay, then general layout. Here, of course, under your styling button, you can also, for the chart, give the layout styling. And of course, depending on what kind of chart is what kind of options you get here. You can change the legend, of course, the labels, how you want to show them in the graph. So you have the designer part, here you build it, and you have the styling part where you make it pretty, basically. That sums up the part of the creation of a dashboard. A quick way. I showed a few functions, how to create a chart, how to change the chart, how it looks. Of course, you can also make a graph from scratch. I made it now from a template, but here in the bar, you can say, okay, insert a chart, and it will add a new chart. Now I would put it here, but of course you can just drag it in your report, and then it will place it here. And then if you have here a new chart, you can start with building it. Of course, you can change it, but you can say, okay, in this case, I want a profit margin. Then you can start from scratch building your graph. Right. Next to that, create my link dimensions. How can you create a link between different graphs? I create a measure input control. So in that way, you can make it dynamically in your report. What are the different key figures that you have? So your report just changes in a way, changes the different figures in your report. So that's really making it very dynamic and how to work with your reports. Create these widgets where you can make your KPIs. Of course, also some styling, how you can make it more user-friendly, nicer, popping out the numbers, especially for KPIs. You want to see, okay, what's my sales this month? I want the number. And then they have to break down in the different graphs. And of course, I showed the device preview. How does it look in different devices? How will it work? Okay. Armjan, are there questions on this part?
Yeah, definitely. Also some questions that I think were related to the first part, so we will address them right now.
Okay.
The first question is whether you can give one strength and one weakness of SAP Analytics Cloud versus, for instance, Power BI.
Well, one of the strengths, if we may start there, is this measure input control. It works very easy and very intuitive. One of the strengths of Power BI is, for example, geospatial reporting. It works really good, really nice, where it will really, based on the city names, it will make your map quite easy. Where SAP works with your longitude, latitudes, which is well, data you need to have.
Okay. Related to that question, why would you migrate from your current BI environment to SAP Analytics Cloud?
Well, first off, it's totally web-based, which is a big plus for your IT department. Costs are quite low on it. the license cost depending on what you have. You have different licenses. You have your planning license, which is more expensive, but your basic BI story license is quite cheap in comparison with other tools. It's all in the cloud, so your on-premise data center does not need an extra server for it, which yeah. And next to that, it's very intuitive. As you see, within half an hour, I create a nice, fancy-looking dashboard. Yeah, so it's not so much programming. Of course, if you need calculations, you can create them, or you can do that in your views. Depends on your setup.
Okay, good. And could you explain about the difference between measures and dimensions?
Well, measures are your calculations, your key figures. So basically your numbers, your quantities, your euros, and so on. And the dimensions are well, the parts where you want to split your data on. For example, your product, your ship to party. Yeah, that's those kind. That's called a dimension. So it's your what is the data looking at, and your measures are more your facts. So your euros, your numbers, your amounts.
Okay, the next question is whether you can easily copy and paste a graph or report to use in a different story.
In a different story? That's a good question. I actually have to look that up. Because you can save your templates, but yeah, copying between the stories, I actually didn't do that yet, so I have to look it up.
Okay, well, we have the names of the people who asked the question, so we will come back to them after the session.
Yeah, sure.
The next question is how to calculate variances and whether they are reusable in other stories.
Yeah, so within your designer, you can create a, what I did with the measure input control, you can also create a calculation. So you can add a measure, you can create a calculation, and then you can, well, basically here, you can say, I want to create my calculation or variance between different measures. You can add them here. Also, if you add two graphs to a, or two measures to a graph, SAC also will show you what kind of variances he could offer for you, so you don't even have to make them yourself. But once you have made them here, as in the calculation editor, you can reuse them in your whole story. So in every different tab in your story. Basically the same as I did with that measure, calculate measure, input control.
Okay, perfect. Actually, one of our colleagues already answered the previous question, and you can confirm that it is that you are able to copy between stories.
Okay,
so that's good news. I'm also looking at time because there are quite some questions that have come in. And that's one of the questions actually is a very good one, whether it is possible to share the answers with all attendees. And for sure we can do that.
Yeah, sure.
So we can come back. Do you want to go through them right now, or do you have more to present?
Yeah, I have a few parts on the roadmap, a few parts, but questions. Can see if we have a few minutes left on the questions after that. Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna switch my application, but I just need to change my screen then, because yep, 1 sec. Okay. Change application to the PowerPoint. Okay. There we go. Right. Just gonna switch this. For the roadmap, a few slides, so we'll go to them quickly, because these you can look up as well on the SAP site. So as I said, SAP is upgrading the system about every 3 months. There's an update. Some companies still have the 2-week update, but most companies go for the once in a quarter now. If you look at different ones for connections, really interesting things are more related with integration with SAP BW, also to be able to do the time-based calculations or the time-based charting on live data, as well as having forecasting on live data. So that's really interesting things. Next to that, before they always had the BEX analyzer to see your data. There's a similar function now coming on live data from BW as well in SAC. So you can do a preview on your data. It's basically a pivot table, just like for the BW enthusiast with the RSRT. Basically, you could see your data. You can drag and drop some dimensions to see how it's built up, and that's the same function that's coming in SAC, which should be in this quarter there as well. Data visualizations. Here is of course also some parts coming. One of the downsides at the moment of SAC is the undo redo button. If you make a mistake in SAC, basically you have to redo it. There's no undo button. It's still on the roadmap. It's coming. This one is quite important in my eyes. It's on the future direction, but it should come soon. Yep. Also for the live connections there, with exception aggregation is really important that it comes to the system. If you look at the connection-wise, I said there's a lot of connections where you can connect. So for the live connections, really within the SAP way of working, it's almost everything can be connected with SAP HANA, BW, BW for HANA, S4 HANA, BBC Embedded, of course by universes. There's also a part that is just only available on import, as you can see on this screen. But this gives you a glance on how you can connect live and also for import with the different vendors that are there. And then we have the questions. So if there's, looking at the time, okay, we have a few minutes left for questions. So
yeah, that's perfect. So let's try to answer all of them, and if not, as mentioned before, we will share the questions and answers with the whole group. One question was how to compare figures with the same period in the previous or last year.
That basically you can almost do automatically. So if you have a time in the time dimension in the report, you can do a calculation between previous year. It will automatically do that. If you go to the report, you have an option in the key figures. Basically, SAC will tell you comparison with last year, and it will add the difference there in your report, in the graph, sorry.
Okay. Another one is whether it's possible to create layouts for desktop and mobile devices.
Yes, but basically it will change it for you automatically. So you SAC will just change the way it looks by itself. You don't have to do it. You don't have to make a specific layout.
And another one is whether you can create measures yourself, or are these defined upfront in the model?
That depends. So if you you can create key figures, of course, in the or calculation in the report. If you make an import model, you can make your calculation as well in the model in SAC. Else if you have a live connection, you do that in your calculation view or in BW or in your ABAP CDS view. If you may in S4, create them there.
Clear. Can you blend public data like weather data with company-owned data like sales per day to look at correlations?
Yeah, so in this case, I made my report only on one source, but you can add multiple sources in your report, so multiple queries if you may. And then you can blend, if you have a common key, your company data with a file that you uploaded. So you can make one live connection with your source and then make a second connection with a model or an Excel file that you uploaded as a model.
Okay. Next one is, are interactions between stories possible? Kind of a link through. Selection in one story to be used by opening another story.
Yeah, you have the linking between stories. I do have to check how it specifically works, because but that's there as well. You have the linking between stories.
Okay, cool. How do you consider the learning curve of SAP Analytics Cloud when you're experienced with alternative BI tools?
Well, it's very easy. It's really intuitive. The menu is really clear. So my background is really webby. There's web intelligence from SAP, or other tools like Tableau or Power BI, and in this case with SAC, it's really fast as well. Basically half a day, and you know everything in the design of the reports.
Nice. The final question for now.
Yep.
Can you make joins in SAC between data sources, or does it need to be done in one data source?
You can join, or you can have multiple queries where you can link them. If it comes from different files. If you have one source system, of course you can make multiple queries as well to link them, or you can make the model up in your source system. So if you have a star model or something like that.
Okay, clear. That was the final question, so give it back to you.
Right. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. I will send out the slides and also the answers to the questions later today or tomorrow. I would like to attend you. There are more webinars coming as well. So if you are interested to join, look on our website with McAdemy Partner in the Academy. Maybe till the next webinar. Thank you. Arjan.